We're back, baby. We're in that time of the year again. It's college football season. Today, I'm going to go over a few of the games that I watched from week one and give my thoughts on them. I'm not a professional at this at all, but just wanted to share my thoughts on some of the games. So, let's get into it. We'll kick this off with the first game, Colorado at what was number 17 TCU. No longer, they're out of the polls, and I can't blame the committee for doing that after they lost to a Colorado team that was 1-11 last year. I mean, the quick improvement on offense is something to be noted from Deion. Shadur looked great. Dylan Edwards looked great. I don't think he's getting near as much recognition as he should. And Travis Hunter played 129 snaps. 129. Travis had over 100 receiving yards. On top of that, a pick. He could have had two. He could have easily had two. He dropped one. But he was everywhere. You couldn't not notice Travis Hunter on that field. Now, the Colorado defense is going to leave them with a lot of question marks. I still don't think this Colorado team is that good overall. They'll be lucky to get 5 wins, I still think. I'm not trying to be a hater or a doubter on Colorado, but it's just how it is. The offense looks good, but the defense does not. Because this is a TCU team that lost a lot of big pieces from last year's championship making team. We know how that went. They don't have Max Duggan, they don't have Kendre Miller, they don't have Darius Davis, they don't have Quentin Johnston. They lost some really, really good players. And I think what also hurt the TCU offense was that Chandler Morris was actually supposed to start last year. And he had a season-ending injury that he is coming back from this season. And they ended in Max Duggan starting and then going to the championship game. But Chandler Morris still missed out on a lot of valuable playing time. Despite the TCU offense looking shaky, they put up 42 on this defense, which should be a concern for Colorado, despite the fact that they have been one of the worst teams in college football for the past few years. I think both teams will be fine offensively, especially given that both teams play in conferences where defense is not at all a focus. Just look at USC as well as Texas. But overall, it's already a candidate for Game of the Year after what happened. Next up for both of these teams, Colorado is going to play Nebraska at home. I'm going to watch that game just to see if Colorado can keep it up, and also to see if Nebraska can bounce back from what was the most Big Ten West-esque football game that they played against Minnesota. And for TCU, they play Nicholls State at home. That one should be routine and a blowout for them. And if it's not, then another note for concern for Horned Frogs fans. Next game I watched was Rice at number 11 Texas. I wasn't expecting a competition. Texas easily won this one 37-10. But I just kind of wanted to see what life without Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson looked like for Texas. Obviously, the run game clearly took a hit. They had their 5-star recruit CJ Baxter leave the game with an injury, and then their backups, they did all right. But what really got them through the game was Quinn Ewers, who looked pretty solid. He's got 2 good targets in Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, so he should be fine, but I think a big question is if Quinn Ewers doesn't perform as well as he should, or as well as the coaching staff wants him to, do they put in Arch Manning? Personally, I don't think Arch Manning would come in until the last game of the season, especially if Texas is knocked out of New Year's Six bowl contention, but that remains to be seen. I'll give a little mention about Rice since they were the other team on the side of the ball. Not much you can do if you're Rice. There's just much more talent on the other side of the ball. But, one thing that I kind of laughed at and forgot, JT Daniels is still a college quarterback. He's, USC, Georgia, West Virginia, and now he's at Rice. He ends up in Conference USA, which is weird, but, I think he could be a competing quarterback there, but, Rice didn't look great, but, again, they play better talent on the other side of the ball. Rice was doomed from the beginning. The next games, Rice plays Houston at home. Not sure how that happened. And Texas goes to play number 4 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. That's going to be one big game to watch. The next game I watched was number 21 UNC playing South Carolina in Charlotte. UNC, the offense looked very impressive here, and their defensive line looked really, really good. This was just a decisive victory for Carolina in the Battle of the Carolinas. Drake May looked pretty good. He, towards the end, was kind of choking a little, throwing 2 picks in the direction of South Carolina, but South Carolina, with the recovered onside kick at halftime and those 2 picks, only mustered up 3 points combined, and the main point of weakness could be on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Their offensive line and defensive line could not do anything. The O-line could not block. They gave up 9 sacks to UNC. UNC last year totaled 17 sacks. over the course of the season. They already have more than half that thanks to that O-line. On the inside of the line of scrimmage, they could barely get any pressure on Drake May all night long. They had 13 men on the field at one time on the goal, on the 1 yard line or something like that. They got the penalty. They got a penalty for it. But they had 13 people on the field, and they still could not stop a rushing touchdown. I think that just kind of says enough about the South Carolina defense. Now, we didn't get to look too much at the secondary for South Carolina, simply because Rattler was being bombarded all night long by that defensive line. But they did kind of get beat, mainly by one man, though, Xavier Legette. There were only two people on the South Carolina offense that were performing all night long, and that was Spencer Rattler and Legette. Regardless of neither of them having a touchdown, they both were clearly the two best players on that team, and Rattler looks much better from last year without Marcus Satterfield in the offense. Both teams were missing some key players. UNC notably missing Tez Walker, who is transferring in from Kent State, but waiver rules held him out, which is stupid, He just wants to play, and the NCAA is not letting him.
Hi, future me here. What I didn't realize at the time of recording was that Tez Walker's eligibility, there is none for this season, because the NCAA basically said, no, you can't play, Tez. Way to go, NCAA. You really care about your players, don't you?
For the Gamecocks, they had some main players go down during the game. Their leading tackler from last year, Nick Emanwari, went down, and Anton Willis Jr., what turned out to be their best receiver last season, left the game pretty early as well. Along with that 5-star Nicholas Harbor, who they somehow managed to steal from Oregon, he didn't play either because he was injured, but I don't think any of those players not being in the game really impacted the end result, because it came down to the O-line not performing well. And there were also other receivers making crucial first down drops for South Carolina that just kind of hurt them even more. On top of that, the run game, the total amount of yards they finished with, and this is also including yards on sacks, is -2 rushing yards. Let that sink in. Meanwhile, the UNC run game looked solid all night long, and that should have also been expected against what was a poor South Carolina run defense last year, and what looks to continue to be a poor run defense this year as well. The only knock defensively on UNC that I pointed out was the secondary. They lost some 50 balls to Legette, but honestly, it was a great win for them. They look good overall, and they look poised to have a chance to win the ACC and steal it from Clemson, or maybe not Clemson not even playing for the ACC title. Up next for each team, UNC plays Appalachian State at home. Last year, they played at App State, and what a game that was, but it remains to be seen if we'll have a thriller like that again. And South Carolina plays Furman at home, which should be a nice win for them, but who knows, given their defensive woes. Last game I'm going to cover is number 9 Clemson playing at Duke. Boy, this was one of the biggest upsets already of the year. That Clemson offense looked absolutely dreadful and was just riddled with mistakes. There was one drive where they went all the way down the field and they lost it in the red zone on a fumble. They did that twice, actually. This Clemson team killed themselves on offense all night long. 2 fumbles, that pick by Klubnik that kind of iced the game or even set them up for a tiny realistic chance of coming back down. They also had 2 missed field goals, which, every single point matters. Both of them, I think, were blocked. The offense just gave the ball away to Duke all night long. Duke didn't really even have to try that hard to win. Riley Leonard, the quarterback for Duke, he did not have a good night through the air, really. I think he completed around 50% of his passes, not a single passing touchdown. And yet, there were 3 rushing touchdowns. He did most of the damage with his legs. Most of the damage done by Duke was on the ground. Obviously, Riley Leonard had that huge run. Jordan Waters had that end of the game touchdown, and Jacquez Moore also had a touchdown. They really, like I said, they did not have to play all that well to win this game. It was mainly Clemson who shot themselves in the foot the entire time. And honestly, there's signs pointing towards the fact that Clemson's run with Dabo Swinney is over, but that still remains to be seen. In the 2021 season, they didn't make the championship game, but the next year they made it back easily. They do play in what's considered, at best, the 4th highest ranked Power 5 conference in football, which is still not great. The ACC is most likely the worst college football conference this year among Power 5 schools. So, take that with what you will. This also makes you think, was DJ really the problem last year? Now, DJ didn't play great. DJ did not play great by any means, but they hired Garrett Riley to come in and help fix the offense from what happened last year. This offense looks somehow worse than last year, which should not be possible. But It's the beginning of the season. They could easily improve over time. So, time will tell. It remains to be seen if this Clemson offense will actually pick it up or not. But as of now, Clemson looks like they're in big, big trouble. The only bright spot on this Clemson team offensively is Will Shipley, but he's probably not enough to carry them as far as they want to go. Up next for both teams, Clemson plays Charleston Southern at home, FCS opponent. This should be a week for them to kind of improve and bounce back on the offensive end, work on things that failed miserably, holding on to the ball, field goals, passing the ball, all that stuff. And Duke plays Lafayette at home. Both of these teams should pick up an easy win next week. But, Texas State beat Baylor. Not an FCS school, FBS, but still, Texas State upset Baylor. So who knows what could happen in all of college football. Well, that's it for my Week 1 review, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Week 2 actually starts today with the Louisville game, so I'm way behind on this. But I'll be back for Week 2 to do the same thing. And just remember, y'all, it's not that serious. I'll see you next week. Thank you, and bye.